Hey, my handsome ladies and gentlemen, this is Shmeaty. Welcome back to the channel, or welcome if you're new. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at a newly buffed Pokemon that has also been recently re-released, and that is going to be non-Shadow Kanto Zapdos. Now, Kanto Zapdos has recently received a buff to its most consistent charge attack, Drill Peck, now being a member of that illustrious 70-40 club. That's 70 damage for 40 energy. We're going to be pairing it up for some reason with a Wall Rain because I wanted to test an Ice type out in the current Great League climate, and a Corviknight because Corviknight's kind of the GOAT. I didn't really like the Corviknight set that I ran. It's the basic one that everybody runs with the Air Cutter and Payback, but nevertheless, we're going to be running Wall Rain into a Talonflame. I don't have a better switch in here. Of course, I do have the Zapdos, but that's kind of my hard answer, so I'm forced to stay in here, and we are going to no-shield a potential Brave Bird. A Brave Bird would be really bad here, but they do decide to go for the Fly. I'm going to no-shield the Fly, go for yet another Icicle Sphere, and if they decide to no-shield this, I probably just have to let them farm me down, bring in the Zapdos, and look for a pretty aggressive Thundershock farm down. They live on very low HP, escaping the Thundershock farm down, but not for long, as Zapdos will be able to put up a shield, and unfortunately have to no-shield Fly number 2. They did get quite a bit of energy from that farm down. They are now going to bring in their Acid Cradily. Cradily is not going to be prepared for this massive amount of Drill Peck damage. Drill Peck onto the Cradily does do a solid amount of damage, but as is going to be the theme of this video, spoiler alert, Zapdos just doesn't have the damage output you want from it. It's really unfortunate that it's super glassy, but just lacks that consistency to one-shot things, whereas the Shadow Zapdos absolutely would be devastating teams right now. Let's see how many times we can get me to say, bring Great League eligible Shadow Zapdos back. The counter is now going to be at 1. Nevertheless, speaking of counter, they've got an Annihilate. They shielded an Air Cutter only to no-shield the Payback as they have no shields remaining. The Cradily is going to be able to fire off a move, but this is not a range where I'm going to be able to take a Rock Tomb and get Acid Farm down without making my Air Cutter. So this Air Cutter will be dispatching the Cradily even with the -1 to my attack. GG's to them. Alright, getting into the next match. If ever there were a time to see a Shadow Drifloon, it would definitely be on the lead. Wall Rain definitely going to force an immediate pivot from the Shadow Drifloon into a safe switch Thievul. I don't even know what is on my screen right now. You know you are deep in the pits if you are encountering Drifloon Thievul Core. I don't even know what this is, man. I haven't seen a Thievul since like day 1 when it launched, and people were trying to cope that it was good. Anyway, I am going to fire off an Air Cutter with my Corviknight. Corviknight not going to quite be able to pick up the KO, but Thievul still going to put up a shield. And now, with the chip that I get from these next couple sand attacks, it's actually going to be in a range where I can KO it. I don't really care if they get rid of my Corviknight here, but they can't with just a single Night Slash. They CMP time me with my Air Cutter. That's a good play, but I'm still going to be able to get this Air Cutter off and either forge both shields or switch advantage, and realizing they go down both switch and shield advantage. Alright, getting into the next one up against a homie. I has a mustache, and we are going to lead Wall Rain into Shadow Kanto Marowak. That's precisely the reason why we have the Wall Rain on the team, because there's a lot of slappers, there's a lot of stuff generally weak to Ice and disrespecting Ice in the meta, so I figured this would be a pretty good Pokemon to run. Nevertheless, we are going to grab a shield from the Shadow Kanto Marowak. They are going to be able to fire off a Bone Club bait at the Corviknight switch-in, and now they're going to bring in their Togekiss. More Slender for this moveset on the Corviknight. I have nothing to hit the Togekiss with. If I had Iron Head, I am a Iron Head believer, as a lot of you guys may already know. If I had Iron Head here, I'd be cooking. This Togekiss would probably not exist anymore, as they would probably no-shield what would generally only be enough for an Air Cutter if I was running the common moveset. Nevertheless, speaking of Air Cutter, I'm going to fire off Air Cutter after Air Cutter at this Togekiss, hoping I can get it off the field. No such luck. Togekiss going to be able to fire off an Ore Spear to get rid of my Corviknight. I'm going to no-shield here, and now look to bring in the Zapdos for a farm down. Unfortunately, if this is the Shadow Zapdos again, I might actually get that Thundershock down, but non-Shadow Zapdos, absolutely useless, so I am going to struggle to get that farm down. In comes a Regidrago. Regidrago going to be met with multiple Drill Pecks. Drill Peck onto the Regidrago will do about 50%, and now we do have another one, but I am going to look to pivot out into the Wall Rain. Wall Rain here is going to be in a pretty decent spot as we can survive the Dragon Energy, not quite able to make the Icicle Sphere. Not the best situation for me. I'm going to overfarm as much as I can, go for the Drill Peck. Drill Peck onto the Regidrago would potentiate a knockout if they decide to no-shield. They do decide to no-shield, in comes the Marowak, and now they're going to fire off a move. I could have thrown one Thunder Shock and the Drill Peck there, would have been a pretty nice position for me. I'm throwing one and the Drill Peck here. Drill Peck onto the Marowak is going to potentiate a KO, so they are going to shield. I throw two, wait a turn, the game doesn't update, the opposing trainer makes a game-winning catch. I try to undercharge as much as I can, but the Togekiss is just too low, and I'm going to get Mud Slapped down, or the Marowak is going to make a move. I had 1 HP there, and I wasn't making the move anyway, so that's a good game. Alright, getting into the next one. It's going to be Walrein up against another Shadow Marowak. Not the worst. I am very happy to just stay in here. Look to overfarm past the initial Icicle Spear. I'm not going to throw immediately there. They bring in an Azumarill, and I'm bringing in the Zapdos. Of course, Azumarill going to be able to outpace before we're able to make our Thunderbolt. That's not the biggest problem ever. I can overfarm a lot up against this Azumarill, throw 4 Thunder Shocks, nearly at 100 energy here, and now fire off a Thunderbolt. Thunderbolt onto the Azu, going to grab a shield. I can throw 3 more Thunder Shocks and another Thunderbolt to win the CMP tie very handily over that Azumarill. Azumarill is going to have to give up both shields if they want to make a push for switch advantage here, but that's still fine. I can just double shield the Zapdos. What are they going to do here? They're going to stay in and take another Thunderbolt? I think not. I'm going to look to overfarm as much as I can. In comes the Marowak. Marowak looking to catch a Thunderbolt. Unfortunately, all it's catching is a Drill Peck, and now I'm bringing in Corviknight. I want to get ahead on energy with the Corviknight here, as I've already got an Icicle Sphere loaded on my Walrein, and I want to try to just farm this Marowak down in an attempt to leave with as much energy as possible. Unfortunately, they live on literal 1 HP, and they're going to be able to fire off a departing Bone Club. It's just a Bone Club, so I'm very happy to go ahead and just let that through, even though I don't have any shields, so it's not like I have a choice. I'm going to fire off an Air Cutter at the incoming Azumarill, not really where I want to be throwing my energy with my Corviknight, but unfortunately, switch timer's not up, so I have to throw a lot of energy at this Azumarill to get it off my screen. Azu makes the Ice Beam, only to be caught onto the Walrein. And if the writing wasn't on the wall at this point in the game, it's actively being written. Shoutouts to Home Slice Henry for that one. Gonna fire off an Earthquake at the incoming Machamp. I don't know what a Machamp is doing here. They're really hoping that they're going to somehow be able to 1v3 with 1 HP on their Machamp. I'm really not sure how that's going to work out for them. It's not going to work out very well, spoiler alert, as Zapdos comes in for the Thunder Shock down. Getting into the next one, Walrein leading into a Furret. Not the best case scenario for me, but I can play this initial matchup out, or I can opt to switch into my Corviknight, and that's immediately what I'm going to do. In comes the disappointment Pokemon, Dunsparce. Dunsparce is going to be able to fire off a Rock Slide, however 2 Rock Slides are not going to be enough, even with the rollout chip, to get a KO onto this Corviknight. I'm going to fire off an Air Cutter. Air Cutter is really just looking to get a boost here, and maybe grab a shield. I am going to be able to get the attack boosted now. This Payback is going to hurt. Payback is already a pretty decent move, and the Dunsparce is going to be forced to respect it. I'm going to fire off yet another move here. This is only a boosted Air Cutter, and they can afford to no-shield it, but that's pretty okay by me. They are going to fire off yet another move here, but once again, this is not range. Corviknight's going to be able to survive this because, once again, Dunsparce is the disappointment Pokemon. Or at least if I was making the Pokedex, that's what I would classify the species as. Nevertheless, they're going to fire off a Rock Slide at the low health Corviknight because they have to, otherwise they would get KO'd. And now they're going to fire off a move at my Walrein. I can either decide to shield or not and look to save shields for the Glassy non-Shadow Zapdos and back. And we are going to get the full Powder Snow down. Once again, the disappointment Dunsparce does not ever cease to stop disappointing its trainers. Nevertheless, Icicle Spear onto the Fur. Not going to do enough damage, honestly. I would have preferred a lot more damage. Maybe this is a counter that needs to take towards the Shadow Walrein being on the team instead, but I do have one of those. I feared with Zapdos it would be too glassy, and I was already super weak to electric, so I wanted to have some play there. In the back, they're going to bring in their Florges, and Florges is going to be able to fire off multiple Chilling Waters to potentiate a threatening move onto our Zapdos. I am going to no-shield the first Chilling Water. No, I am not. Old me making a liar out of current me, and now I'm going to overfarm to their next Chilling Water and fire off the Thunderbolt. They shielded up the first move, so this Thunderbolt is now going to do a massive amount of damage, but not quite massive enough. The Chilling Water allowing that Florges to survive, and now I'm going to have to double shield here. Chilling Water Double shielding it isn't the best feeling ever, but they try to make a catch onto their Furret. I keep over farming. They give me the ability to double up on Drill Pecks, and if ever there was a lose con finder, it would definitely be that Furret. As Furret gets KO'd by the Drill Peck, back in comes the Florges. It has to move bank, but Zapdos has a higher attack stat, so we're going to be able to win that game. Getting into the next match, it's non-Shadow Walrein up against a Shadow Quagsire. Now, Shadow Quagsire does have the ability to basically one-shot me with the Stone Edge, so before they're able to fire it off, I'll go for a Icicle Spear just before they make their Stone Edge, but unfortunately it's caught onto a Magcargo. Now this next play is going to look a little bit awkward, but when you realize that the sand attacks are chipping the Magcargo down very, very quickly, it's suddenly not looking that bad for us. I'm going to be able to fire off double Air Cutter before they even throw their first move, and if this Magcargo wants to get rid of the Corviknight, they will have to go for an Overheat in this matchup. I'm going to no shield, it's just a Rock Tomb, and conveniently for them, they got the damage registration error there. You can tell that they got damage registration error because the Corviknight didn't have to throw an additional sand attack for the KO to go through. It instead just ended up getting KO'd right after their charge move went off, so a little bit unfortunate. They get the Rock Tomb off that they realistically shouldn't have, but that doesn't seem like it's going to be too much of a problem, as non-Shadow Zapdos, unfortunately, its existence is pain, but I will be able to shield up a potential Stone Edge here, and look to fire off multiple Drill Pecks at this Quagsire. I'm going to double shield my Zapdos. I really need to shield here because although Aqua Tail isn't necessarily the hardest hitting move that they can throw at me, I would much rather keep my Zapdos healthy knowing that they have that Corviknight in the back line. They are going to shield my next Drill Peck. I look to switch into the Walrein, but we switch at the same time. I'm going to go for an Icicle Spear up against the Corviknight. These Icicle Spears will slowly start to add up over time. And more importantly, I may be able to Powder Snow this Corviknight into a range where I can get an Icicle Spear to KO. They go for the payback, but the payback is just not going to be enough to KO the very bulky Walrein. Although, I am now in a range where an Air Cutter is going to be able to pick up a knockout. I'm going to undercharge this next Icicle Spear. It's still too much damage, and they are going to be able to pick up the KO, but they will have to throw energy at my Walrein in order to get rid of it. But throwing this energy also means that Zapdos may very well be able to outpace. Let's see, we're 2 off. It all depends. I think even an Aqua Tail is going to KO here, though. Aqua Tail, it's a Stone Edge. GG's to them. Alright, getting into the next one, we've got Walrein leading into a Fearow. A very nice lead for us. The Fearow likely going to immediately safe switch, and they do, into a Gastrodon. Safe switching immediately into a Gastrodon is a little questionable, maybe making me think that they have double slap in the back or something like that, maybe with a Marowak. I am going to bring in the Corviknight immediately. The reason for that is because I don't want to misalign the switch timer and allow them to switch the Fearow into a matchup where it will have any semblance of play, which fortunately into this team it really doesn't, but realistically I don't want it on my Zapdos that bad. I am going to be able to dispatch that low health Gastrodon with a further Air Cutter, and now another Air Cutter is going to land onto their Fearow. Now Fearow not renowned for its bulk, but Air Cutter not known for its damage either, so they're going to be able to tank that, and now make a very nice catch onto their Marowak. Fearow double slap, how did I know? They are going to now bring in the Marowak, but Marowak getting torn apart by these Powder Snows, and Powder Snow is going to be able to eventually farm this Marowak down. Of course they're going to go for the Bone Club bait, but I really don't want to no-shield a potential Rock Slide. I go for an undercharge on this Icicle Spear, knowing that I can potentially get a farm down if they decide to let it go. I'm not going to go for that anymore. Now we need to KO this because they are getting closer and closer into making another Rock Slide, and I don't want to have them make a Rock Slide and have any amount of play in this game. They are going to bring in the Fearow, they go for the Drill Peck, it's not enough to KO, and now in comes Zapdos looking for that farm down of the Fearow. Zapdos, for the first time in its career, going to be able to comfortably no-shield a move. Drill Peck does do a lot of damage, but not quite a lot enough. We can shield up this move, go for the full Thundershock farm down, and Fearow is not going to have enough energy to make a third move here. They get Thundershock all the way down. GG's to this trainer. Alright, getting into the next one, we've got Walrein leading into Altaria. Probably one of the best things that I can see. Of course, most Altaria teams are going to come with an Empoleon, but this one safe switches into a Cradily. And Cradily, definitely a Pokemon that we don't mind seeing with our Walrein. I'm going to stay in, look to fire off as much super effective Ice-type damage as I can, then safe switch into my Corviknight. They're never going to throw a Grass Knot here. This is always going to be a Rock Tomb, the move they wanted to throw at the Corviknight anyway. But I'm very happy to stay in, eat the Rock Tomb, and then look to play this matchup out in a losing fashion with my Corviknight. Although you guys are probably thinking, dude, you're going to lose switch advantage, are you okay? I'm going to be able to fire off this payback, get some pretty nice damage onto the Cradily, and then I can go for an air cutter before they make their next move. This likely won't be enough to KO, and I can either look to commit a shield or not, realistically. They are going to be able to make a last second move here. I'm going to shield it up because I really don't want to go down. If I can manage to keep switch advantage, I will, and for the second time, my opponent's going to get damage registration error and make a move that they should not make. Although one turn bring-in has been ever so slightly nerfed, although I do see it creeping back in, I don't know why. This is still a very big problem, as that causes me to go down 2 shields, where I really never should have to go down 2 shields. As you can again see if you guys want to go back in that footage, the Cradily ends up getting KO'd by a sand attack that stuck through while they were throwing the move, and that's not how that interaction should work. I'm gonna make an insane no-shielding the Shadow Hydro Cannon and firing off a Drill Peck, hoping to grab a shield from the Empoleon. I grab the shield from the Empoleon. How is this working? The Zapdos just bulky enough to withstand the Shadow Hydro Cannon, and they're gonna fire off a Drill Peck at the Walrein. I have to watch for a catch here. I decide to just send it. I fire off the Earthquake, looking to get as much residual energy as I can. We're able to land the Earthquake. In comes the Altaria, and on 1 HP, I think I get damage registration error here, and I'm gonna be able to KO the Altaria with the double super effective Icicle Spear. You know what? A damage registration error for a damage registration error, I'll take it. This very poorly built game will not stop me, as we lead Walrein into a Shadow Gyarados. They are going to catch my Icicle Spear on 5 and bring in their Lickitung. This is a pretty interesting team composition from my opponent. I am a big fan of Shadow Gyarados. They are going to stay in with the Lickitung, and I'm going to attempt to catch a potential Power Whip with my Corviknight. They don't throw it immediately, so unfortunately I'm not going to be able to get that catch. I'm going to fire off an Air Cutter at the Lickitung. I may have actually been just a turn early with that catch, so a little bit unfortunate for me, Elbozo, but they're going to fire off Body Slam at the Corviknight. And this is a truly miserable matchup for the Lickitung. It's not at all like the Skarmory matchup, because Skarmory's HP stat was so bad that the Licks would end up chipping quite a lot. But Corviknight has a lot more balanced stats, so Lickitung is just thoroughly in pain there. They're going to bring back in the Gyarados. I'm looking to get an undercharge of the Air Cutter to get the farm down with the Zapdos. Unfortunately, I undercharged too much, a little unfamiliar with this matchup. No shield, a crunch, and now, although I do have 2 shields remaining, one of my entire Pokemon has been taken out here. They're going to bring in the Piloswine. Piloswine, I don't understand why it's here, but I'm going to bring in my Walrein anyway. And Walrein, I don't have to shield this move. I believe this was only 6. 6 can at maximum be an Avalanche, but I shield up an Icicle Spear bait, and now I'm going to fire off an Icicle Spear in retaliation. I would be able to farm them down if they shielded that. They are going to bring back in the Lickitung, but Lickitung is just so hopeless up against our Corviknight in the back. They're going to shield up the Icicle Spear, and I would imagine when they see the Corviknight, they are just going to top left, but they are going to try to play it out. Look to get some damage with us onto the Corviknight with the Body Slam. Body Slam, again, just isn't doing the damage it needs to. We're going to fire off an Air Cutter. They're playing it out to the bitter end. No boost from us, but with a shield intact, Walrein's going to be able to comfortably make this Icicle Spear, and Lickitung will be able to fire off what's likely a Body Slam bait, but even if they had the Power Whip loaded after that Body Slam bait, they would still lose because they would lose CMP. Icicle Spear will knock out the Lickitung, and we're on to the final match. Getting into the final match of the video, it is going to be Walrein leading into a Diggersby. I swear, these people are just like calling out to me for my Pittsburgh regional team. I am going to stay in this matchup for a little while, then fire off a Icicle Spear. They are going to catch my Icicle Spear onto a Furret, or excuse me, a Florges. I misread the name. I don't have my glasses on, please forgive me. I'm going to fire off a Drill Peck at the incoming Florges, as I don't believe they got the sneak on the bring-in, so that's pretty good for me. I'm going to be able to get that Drill Peck to grab a shield from the Florges, and now, I believe this only to be a Chilling Water, so I'm not going to shield it. It is just going to be the Chilling Water. I'm going to be able to outpace this Florges, and I'm going to throw 5 Thunder Shocks to potentiate another CMP tie. They don't go for it, though. I'm going to fire off this Drill Peck. It still KOs the Florges, which is very, very nice, but Diggersby can come back in for a pretty massive farm down. I'm going to fire off a Drill Peck at them, but with my Drill Peck being debuffed and not really having a Pokemon that I can pivot into, this is going to be a little bit tough. The Drill Peck still gets the Diggersby under 50% HP, and I'm going to bring back in the Walrein. I don't really think I can afford to no-shield the Scorching Sands here, but old me thinks differently. We no-shield the Scorching Sands. Walrein, still a pretty thick Pokemon all things considered. I guess they have 100 energy here, because I wouldn't throw a Fire Punch at the Walrein. They do have 100 energy, and I'm going to go for yet another Icicle Spear, and they bring in their Corviknight. With this chip, I think Corviknight may very well just be able to clutch up this game. They have misaligned the switch timers with that very nice catch, but I'm going to be able to get a payback off onto their Corviknight. And they haven't thrown yet, so we're in a pretty decent spot. It is going to be the CMP tie here, and right now I think their Corviknight is so far behind, because they're down a shield, they have to go for like Air Cutter boosts into Payback's landing, and now I think I can afford to no shield the Payback here, but instead I actually go for the shield, and they're in a range where I can Air Cutter them, but I'm not in a range where they can Air Cutter me or get a KO with a Payback either, so we're in a really good spot. Air Cutter nearly KOing the Diggersby. We're able to get that farm down with the Walrein, and there's just nothing left for their Corviknight to do, as we'll be able to make 2 Air Cutters, and a Payback is not even going to be enough to KO us. At this point, I would be reaching for the top left button, and they are going to basically do the same by letting that Air Cutter through. GG's to this opponent. If you made it to this point in the video, thank you so much for watching. If you work for Niantic, or you know somebody that works for Niantic, please bring back Great League eligible Shadow Zapdos. You guys have already gotten enough money out of my wallet. It's time for you to give me something that I actually want. All jokes aside, I definitely wouldn't recommend the regular Zapdos. It just doesn't hit hard enough. It's way too frail. Although it's able to survive a charge move, it's surviving a charge move only to get fast move down in like 1 or 2 fast moves, so maybe not the best Pokemon ever. I will say though, it was definitely a fun experiment. Not one I would recommend for anybody to try out, but wanted to give you guys some answers on what the regular Zapdos is like in the Great League. With all that being said, thanks once again so much for watching. I've been Shmeaty. I hope to see you all again next time, and have a good rest of your day. See ya.